Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mindy and I have lost about 125 pounds using GLP medications as a tool. And today we're gonna do some meal prep. I know, grown. Meal prep gets a bad rap, and that's because nobody wants to spend an entire day of their weekend prepping food that they're gonna have to eat every single day for the rest of the week. The problem is sometimes it's necessary, and this week for me, my work schedule means that I don't have enough time to come home, prepare a full-on dinner, and eat in a reasonable enough time to still be able to eat my sweet treat at the end of the night. And if I don't get my sweet treat at the end of the night, then I'm grouchy, and nobody wants a grouchy Mindy. So today I'm giving myself a head start for the rest of the week by prepping some ingredients for my delicious high protein Polynesian pizza to make it much quicker and easier to throw together when I get home from work tomorrow. And then I'm going to be completely assembling my green chili chicken enchilada casserole so that on Tuesday I can have Richard just throw it in the oven and it'll be ready to eat the minute I walk through the door. I'll also be throwing together a quick blueberry cheesecake baked oats that looks amazing. I know, shock and amazement. I'm not eating my regular breakfast, but I decided it was time to try something new. I'll probably be back to our regularly scheduled breakfast next week if I know myself. So if you're looking to make healthy eating easier on yourself throughout the week, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get cooking. So we're gonna start by putting together breakfast. I'm gonna start by preheating my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Freedom units, as they say. And I'm gonna actually put this whole thing together in the dish I'm going to be baking it in. There's a small OCD part of me that says that's scary, and then there's the other part of me that says I don't want to wash dishes. We're gonna put everything together and I'm gonna be weighing all of my ingredients. You guys know, if you've watched my channel before, I love to weigh things. It's more accurate. You get a more consistent result when you bake things and cook things, and the calorie count is more consistent. But more importantly, again, I don't have to dirty a bunch of measuring dishes. Now, to make things easier on myself, I do have some ingredients pre-measured because it makes filming a million times faster. And yeah, I'm gonna start with some bananas. We need 290 grams of bananas. Now this recipe is making 6 servings. I would normally only make 5, except my boss, when I told her I was making this, was like, oh, can you bring me a slice? So I'm making her a slice. Also, do you peel your banana from the bottom or the top? If you've never tried peeling your banana from the bottom, it is so much easier. I don't know why, but supposedly that's the correct way to peel a banana. Ooh, this banana smells good. So that one banana was 138 grams. Bring my thingy, what's this called? Trash can. I'm gonna bring that over here. The recipe that inspired this, I will have linked down in the description, but I will also write in all of the quantities that I am using. That's 286.4. That's close enough to 290. I'm not gonna open up a whole other banana for 3.5 grams. And I'm gonna mash these up real quick. Just gonna use a fork. I wish these bananas were a little bit more ripe. So there's probably a chance I'm gonna need to add a little sweetener to this because these bananas aren't gonna be as sweet as they would have been if they had been more ripe. This would probably have been faster with a potato masher, but here we are and I've committed. So that's sufficiently slimy and mushy. She used rolled oats, but I don't always love the texture of baked oats, and I actually saw this recipe on the Plant Slant. He used oat flour. Oat flour is literally just ground up oats, so if you don't want to buy oat flour, you can just stick your oats in a blender. But I've tried that before and they don't get as fine as oat flour, and this was a really good price on Amazon. I will link it down in the description below. 240 grams of rolled oats or oat flour. She used a soy protein. I'm not a fan of vegan protein powders. I haven't found one that I like at all. I prefer to use the PE Select Whey Casein blends. I feel like they have the nicest texture. This is gonna be 72 grams, which is a little over 2 full scoops. So 1.25 teaspoons of baking powder. I should probably be sifting that. I can't be bothered. First deviation to this recipe, which if you don't know me, hi, my name is Mindy and I never follow a recipe really. This recipe had no salt in it. And I'm sorry, but baked goods always need salt. They need salt to bring out the flavor. So I'm gonna do a half a teaspoon. We'll see how that goes. We need milk, 510 milliliters, which is about 2¼ cups. I'll try to give this a little bit of a head start here. I'm gonna hold back a little bit on some of the milk because a lot of the people in the comments said that it was too much milk. I have a feeling that may have been because of the different kinds of protein powder that were used. Casein has a tendency to really soak up liquid. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna need all of my milk. I am using high protein milk because why not? Oh, and I forgot, I'm gonna add a splash of vanilla. I never measure vanilla. You measure vanilla with your heart. It's just vanilla and garlic. You should never get out a measuring device for, I'm pretty sure of it. I think I'm gonna be okay adding the rest of the milk. I'm just gonna add it all. And then once I get this mixed, I'm gonna taste it for sweetness. Oops. Oh no, I'm making a mess. This is why I was worried about doing it in the baking container. If I were using rolled outs, I would probably let this sit for a good 20 minutes before putting it in the oven. So like if you do rolled oats, I wouldn't worry about preheating the oven first. Like I would assemble the whole thing, preheat the oven for as long as it takes, like 15 minutes or so for your oven to preheat. Then you can go ahead and put it in the oven. Okay, let me give this a little taste. It's quite banana-y. This might not need much sweetener, but I like things on the sweet side, things like this anyway. So I have some 0-calorie brown sugar substitute, and I'm just gonna sprinkle some in. And I'm also gonna add a little bit more salt. It needs it. So I guess it's gonna be more like 3/4 of a teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt. I'm just gonna go full teaspoon. I bet you could also use this as a pancake mix. It looks like the right consistency for that. Oh yeah. Now comes the fun part. This is what makes it the blueberry cheesecake. I have 145 grams of wild blueberries. They're wild. Woo! And I'm just gonna sprinkle them over the top. These are just frozen blueberries. And this feels like it could use more blueberries to me. I'm gonna make a dessert that's like a PB&J yogurt bowl. And I'm gonna make a homemade blueberry chia jam. I just have a little bit of blueberries left in this package. I've got another 36, 37 grams. I'm just gonna put the rest of those in here so I'm not left with this tiny bit of blueberries in my freezer. Oh, my hands look like I murdered Barney. And then this is 200 grams of Oikos 000 vanilla Greek yogurt. You can use whatever vanilla Greek yogurt you prefer. You guys know Oikos is my jam. And I'm gonna just dollop it over the top in like some big splooges, splotches, dollops. All right, and then I'm gonna take the end of my fork and we're just gonna swirl it around into the oatmeal mix, and you can get as excited or as not excited as you want. I'm gonna try not to go too far and turn it into a Jackson Pollock here. I'm gonna start at 35 minutes, check it, see how it's doing, and then we'll go from there. I'm gonna clean up the mess I made, and then we're gonna get started on something else. I'll make decisions. Okay, I'm gonna throw together my 2-ingredient pizza dough. It's been a while since I've done this one on camera with you guys. I do have a printable recipe card of this on my Buy Me a Coffee page. If you're a member, those are free for you to print. If you're not a member and you would like to support my content, you're welcome to go there and print one out. You can also just write down the ingredients that I have listed down in the description below. It's 2-ingredient dough because it uses self-rising flour. I don't buy self-rising flour, I just make my own. It's just a combination of flour, baking soda, baking powder, and salt. 230 grams of flour, a teaspoon of salt, and I'm gonna sift these because they have a tendency to have clumps. 1 3/4 teaspoons of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And you can stop there. And for well over a year, that is where I stopped. Lately, I have actually been adding in a teaspoon of yeast and adding in a little extra water when it comes time to mix it so that it's a wetter dough and it feels more like a traditional pizza dough. I like this just fine without that step. My husband just likes it a little bit better when I make it with the yeast, and it gets a little bit more bubbly, I guess. And then I just let it sit in the fridge overnight, and then tomorrow I don't have to spend 15 minutes throwing together the pizza dough tomorrow. That part's already done for me, and because it's had a chance to sit overnight in the fridge, it'll taste even better. There's my oatmeal. Still very jiggly in the middle. I'm gonna give that at least another 5 minutes. If you do not use your yeast very frequently, if you keep it in the freezer, it'll keep it fresh for longer. Some non-fat Greek yogurt, 227 grams of it to be precise. And this dough can be used to make all sorts of yumminess. You can use this for pizza, like I'm going to. You can use it to make pretzels, bagels, tortillas, flatbreads, naans, like all kinds of stuff. And it's very low calorie, very high in protein for a bread, and yeah, delicious. And I normally throw this together by hand, but because I'm doing multiple things at a time right now, I'm gonna throw it in my KitchenAid and let that do the kneading for me. So I'm gonna give this a start with my little hook here. And it'll probably only need like a couple tablespoons of water, so I'm gonna let that go and come together. I've had it mixing for several minutes, and now I'm just gonna stick it in a bowl and put it in the fridge. This is a little wetter than I probably should have made it. I have a tendency to go too far with the water. It's happened, but you know what? The good thing is that dough is very forgiving. I mean, it's just cooking. It's just food, y'all. It's not, as much as my OCD tends to get away from me, it's not gonna be the end of the world if things aren't perfect. It's still gonna taste good. And of course my timer is gonna go off right now. Put this in here and put the lid on, and it will slow ferment in the fridge overnight. And then tomorrow, probably about 30 minutes before I get off work, I'll message Richard and have him take it out of the fridge for me so that it can come to room temperature and the yeast can kind of start to do its thing. Put the lid on it, stick it in the fridge. Should be done. And because I didn't use rolled oats, a lot of the blueberry and yogurt kind of sunk a little bit, but I still think it's pretty. Should be delicious. I'm gonna let this cool completely, and then I'll cut it into 6, but I'm just gonna leave it in this container because this has a lid. I'm gonna keep it in the fridge. She served hers with like a drizzle of peanut butter on top. I don't know that I'm really feeling that. I think I'm gonna be okay with it just as it is, and then I'll be eating it with a couple of the Applegate chicken maple breakfast sausages because yum. All right, I'm gonna get some of my, I'm gonna clean up a little bit, and then we're gonna start on our last prep thing for the day, which is the green chili chicken enchilada casserole. See you in a bit. Okay, so I was actually gonna take a lunch break, and then I realized how quickly this recipe is gonna come together, and I decided I wasn't gonna bother because this should come together in about like 5 minutes. Green chili chicken enchilada casserole. Anytime I make enchiladas, I absolutely 100% do not bother rolling individual enchiladas for several reasons. Number one, it means a lot more tortilla. Number two, it's too fussy for me. I just can't. This recipe is gonna start with a pound of cooked chicken. I just have a pound of Costco rotisserie chicken. Every time I go to Costco, I buy one of their $4.99 rotisserie chickens. I bring it home, I take all the meat off. It ends up being almost exactly 2 pounds every time. And that's cheaper than I can even make it myself. So there's a lot of recipes I use that use pre-cooked chicken, and it just makes my life so much easier. So I'm gonna pour a pound of rotisserie chicken. You can also, of course, just cook your own chicken breast or whatever. And then I'm gonna add in a can of green enchilada sauce, a 4-ounce can of diced green chilies. And that's all the recipe calls for, but that seems sad to me. So I'm gonna add more. I'm gonna also add a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of onion powder, little bit of coriander. Oh, I love how that smells. And a teeny bit of cumin. Oh, well, a not so teeny bit of cumin. I won't be adding any of that to the sauce now. And then I'm gonna stir this up. Just get that chicken all saucy and seasony and delicious. I'll set that to the side. And then we're gonna make the sauce, which is a can of green chili enchilada sauce. The recipe calls for half a cup of sour cream and half a cup of Greek yogurt. I have a ton of Greek yogurt in my fridge, so I'm just gonna use all Greek yogurt because to me, I think they taste pretty much the same, so I'm not gonna bother. And it's a lot more protein. 227 grams, which is a cup of Greek yogurt. And I have a little bit left to put on top if we want. And again, this is all the recipe calls for, but that's not enough for me. And I'm gonna add those same seasonings. Because I accidentally added way too much cumin to the chicken, I'm just gonna leave that out of the sauce part. Because I know how mild this green chili enchilada sauce is, I'm gonna add just a little diced red pepper flake for us. Pinch of Mexican oregano. And I'm gonna use a whisk on that because I don't want any chunks of Greek yogurt left hanging out. Yep, that needs salt. That needs a significant amount of salt. Somewhere between a half a teaspoon and a teaspoon. I do try to follow recipes, guys, but I know myself and I know, yes, much better. There's certain types of cuisines that I've made so much. I know when something is gonna miss something for my palate. From here, it's just a symbol. A 9x13 dish that I have sprayed with a little bit of oil, and we're gonna take about half this sauce. I'm probably gonna go a little shy of half on the bottom because I want the majority of it to be in the middle. I have the Mission extra thin corn tortillas. I know a lot of these recipes use flour tortillas. In my opinion, they just turn to mush. So I'm gonna do 6 of these in the bottom. Half of the chicken mixture. And you could most definitely increase this to 2 pounds of chicken if you wanted to. I almost did, but it had plenty of protein in it, so try not to get too OCD about it, Mindy. 1.5 cups of full fat Monterey Jack cheese, and I'm gonna take a little more than half of it because the rest of this cheese is gonna go on top. Cheese to me, like when you put it on top, like it has that tendency to get like dry and plasticky and weird. I just prefer the texture of it when it's nice and soft and gooey, which it will be on the inside. That looks delicious. Done. Boy, was that fast. Less than 10 minutes. I'm gonna cover this with tin foil, stick it in my fridge. This was a pretty quick prep day, y'all, and now my week is gonna be so much easier for me. We aren't gonna be having to wait until 7 o'clock to have dinner every night. I'm very happy that I did this. It's now a little afternoon. I'm gonna go get some lunch. I'm gonna read my book, get some relaxation time in with the puppy, clean up this sink full of dishes, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good morning. It's breakfast time. I'm tired. Richard had to go to Lubbock last night. Richard's my husband, by the way, for those of you who are new. And so anytime he's not home, I don't sleep as good. This is what we've got. I microwaved it for about a minute in the microwave first, and then I stuck it in the air fryer just to crisp it up around the edges. It pretty much just tastes like banana bread with some blueberry cheesecake topping. Given that it doesn't have any flour in it at all, it's pretty darn good. I have a feeling this is going to be quite filling. It's definitely not dry. It's quite moist. I know how much people love that word on the internet. It probably could have done with a little bit less milk. So if you wanted to back that off a little bit when you make it, that's up to you. But the macros on this breakfast, which I have a feeling are going to be quite filling, for 1/6 of that pan, plus 2 of those chicken maple breakfast sausages is 385 calories, 31 grams of protein, 47 grams of carbs, and 8 grams of fat. That's without any toppings on it at all. The oats themselves, for just the oats, it's 311 calories, 25 grams of protein, 45 grams of carbs, and 4 grams of fat. Quite delicious. I'm sure it is going to keep me full for a very long time. I will see you guys for dinner later to put together that pizza. Hey guys. Came home and immediately started throwing the pizza together. I figured I would talk you through what I did. I had Richard take the pizza dough out of the fridge about 45 minutes to an hour before I would get home. And then I take a half baking sheet, anyway, like a roasting pan, and I put one of those pre-cut parchment paper sheets in it. And then I dump out the dough, and I just use either water on my hands or I'll spray a little bit of avocado oil on top. And I just use my hands to push it. That's why I like making the dough a little bit wetter. But if you don't do that, if you don't add the yeast and the extra water and everything, and you do just the recipe as written, then you can just put the dough between 2 sheets of parchment paper and you just use the rolling pin to roll it out. That way you don't have to add a bunch of extra flour. Basically, the formula for these 2 ingredient dough pizzas is a full recipe of dough, about a half a cup or so of sauce of choice. On this one, we use a Thai sweet chili sauce, a cup and a half of part skim, shredded mozzarella, jack, whatever kind of cheese you want to use. Usually a pound of cooked meat of some kind. This one is a pork tenderloin that I just cook in the slow cooker. And we love this pizza so much that I'll usually do like a big 3-pound roast instead of a 1.5 pound roast. And then I'll take half of it, put it in a vacuum bag and freeze it. It's gonna look like a ton of meat, and it is. And it's gonna be like a solid sheet of meat on top of that cheese. This pizza also has some pre-cooked bacon on it. The recipe just calls for 4 slices, so I put 2 slices on my half, and then you'll notice that Richard's half has considerably more bacon than that. And then whatever kind of toppings you want. On this one, I use fire roasted there's the pizza. Fire roasted tomatoes and garlic, and a whole can of pineapple rings that I cut into small pieces. You can just put the rings on top of the pizza whole, but like they're hard to bite through, so I prefer to just cut them up. If you're starting to wonder where you're gonna put the rest of the toppings on the pizza, then you're doing it right. You're gonna put that in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 to 22 minutes. You can put it on broil briefly if you wanna crisp up the toppings on the top. This one makes 8 servings because it is a very topping heavy pizza. And then also it's supposed to have red onions. Richard doesn't like red onions, so I leave those off, and I'm just gonna use pickled red onions this week on top. Let's do a little taste test. You guys already know how much I love this salad. I will link the video from last week where I showed you guys how to make this. If you missed that, you definitely need to check it out because it is such a fabulous salad. So many delicious flavors. So low calorie, so fantastic. Yum. And yes, I'm eating my salad with a spoon because I like to. And then my beautiful pizza. They are small pieces, but there's so much on them. Also, the Thai chili sauce that I used this time, I got it when it was on sale, and it's delicious, but it's very runny. So I don't recommend using a runny Thai chili sauce because it tends to all just like run off in the oven and just make a massive mess. And then you're not getting to eat all of it. So there are a ton of toppings on this pizza, which means that the crust doesn't get as crunchy, but the flavors are chef's kiss. But I'm telling you, using that dough, if you want a printable version of the recipe, check out my Buy Me a Coffee page. But I will have the rest. Oh my God, I'm dying. I will have the recipe written down in the description below. I'll see you guys tomorrow for green chili chicken enchilada casserole. Really, buddy? You may not have any of my pizza. I'm sorry. I love you. Hi guys. It's been a day. I am very tired. It took me a very long time to get out of work, but I had Richard throw the green chili enchiladas into a 425 degree oven for about 45 minutes with the foil on. And then when I came home, I took the foil off and popped it under the broiler until it was bubbling and golden brown and delicious. I was not patient enough to give it time to set up. So when I took it out, it was kind of a mushy mess, but I'm okay with it. And I topped mine with some shredded cabbage, pickled red onion, Greek yogurt, green onion, and cilantro. Let's give this a taste and see how it is. Yep, I can definitely taste that cumin. Very glad that I decided to add the extra seasonings. I think it would have been really bland without it. That is delicious. 2 thumbs up. Highly recommend, especially for the amount of effort that it took to put together. So quick and easy. I'm gonna finish eating this and enjoy the rest of my evening. I really hope that this was helpful to you guys, that it gave you some ideas of how to make meal prep fit into your busy weekly schedules so that meals are a little easier to throw together after work or in the midst of everything else that you have to work on throughout the day. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you for joining me. As always, thank you to my Buy Me a Coffee members. I could not do what I do without you. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.
We're on a journey, looking back on the things that we've taken for granted, but feels like we're learning to be better without what's been holding us back now.